14,046. I had a good dream. Should I buy a lottery ticket? Question. I had two dreams. In the first dream, I was standing in a field and there was a very black pig. It kept nudging my leg with its body. I thought to myself, if I take it home, it'll bring a fortune, but I couldn't move it by force, so I just nudged the pig back with my leg. We kept nudging each other until I felt exhausted, and then that dream ended. In the next scene, my husband was sitting on one side of the living room, and I was sitting on the other, and bundles of cash were scattered all over the place. Looking at that, without saying a word, I thought to myself, they say if things go well, a lot of money comes into the house. I guess a lot is about to come in, and then I woke up. When I told my older sister-in-law about the dream, she said, "Oh, you should buy a lottery ticket then." Hearing that, I initially thought to myself, this dream was given to me as a gift and a blessing. I shouldn't just exchange it for a lottery ticket. But then, I remembered hearing in your lecture, Mentor, that a lottery is also a form of blessing. So it's fine, as long as you use it well. Thinking that I would just use it wisely, I went ahead and bought a lottery ticket. And then, a dream I had just a couple of days ago was about someone bringing me something as a gift. I was so happy that I unwrapped it, and it turned out to be a large cup, like a mug. I woke up thinking, oh, this is so wonderful.
Answer. Dreams are a form of guidance. A dream does not inform you about the past, it informs you about what is to come in the future. It is a spiritual revelation. However, even though you are being shown what will happen, you haven't actually received it yet. You are being shown that something good is going to happen, and after showing it to you, the universe is watching you. This is the nature of the relationship between the gods, the divine, and sentient beings. For example, suppose you complete a 100-day prayer, and a deity shows you in a dream that something good is going to be granted to you. Showing it to you is just the first step. The second step is observing you after you've been shown. The universe watches what thoughts you harbor during this interval. Depending on your thoughts, the final gift changes. If you suddenly rush out to buy a lottery ticket just because you think something good is coming, do you think the divine will still grant you that great blessing? This action changes the mind of the giving deity. Why? Because of greed. You studied and prayed sincerely for 100 days, and just as they were about to grant you something, they gave you a sign, and you immediately became greedy. Would they grant a blessing to greed? This is how it works. When you receive a prophetic dream, and immediately view it strictly as material wealth, harboring greed to possess it, that wealth may end up not coming at all. Conversely, what if you accept it not as material wealth, but as an immensely joyful and high-quality spiritual energy? If you perceive it as a beautiful energy and remain humble, then that wonderful event will actually manifest. What about the dream you had afterwards? When you look around this lecture hall, there are cups everywhere, right? A jar or a vessel can hold blessings or anything else. What matters is what you fill it with. A jar on its own is just an empty vessel. But when you fill it with something, it turns into real substance and quality. Therefore, if you are meant to go to a certain place, what are you going to obtain from there? If you listen to a lecture, gain a piece of wisdom, and feel immense joy, it means you have received a wonderful, blissful energy. However, translating a good dream into mere material gain means you have already traded the dream away for a lottery ticket. Since you exchanged it for a lottery ticket, that transaction is concluded. That is how everything unfolds. A dream is something that alters depending on how you lead it. You were shown that a good thing would happen, but if you pull it toward material greed, it goes that way. If you elevate your thoughts, it goes toward a greater blessing. For you to think only of a lottery ticket means your understanding is limited to that level. If you hold grander, more meaningful thoughts, a much greater blessing will be bestowed upon you. If you harbor thoughts like a greedy person, why would the universe fill your vessel with noble things? Therefore, the secondary outcome created by the dreamer depends entirely on what your current spiritual capacity quality desires through that dream. If what you desire stems from greed, it will not be fulfilled. But if your desires stem from an intellectually and spiritually refined foundation, it will manifest. This is how the outcome of a dream can completely change. When nature gives us a gift, if we receive it with deep gratitude, thinking, I do not know what will be given, but I am truly grateful, then nature will eventually deliver what it intended for us. Even if you have a dream, if you twist it this way and that by trying to manipulate it, the dream itself becomes twisted. If you dismiss it saying, it's just a nonsense dream, then it becomes a nonsense dream. But if you accept it by thinking, thank you for giving me this joy and this gift from nature, then even if you don't know exactly what it is, what nature intended to give you will arrive exactly as it is. This is why dreams change based on how we resolve and process them. If you just think, well, I suppose it's just something like that, then it simply passes by as nothing. We must study how to properly process these dreams that nature provides to humanity. The same principle applies when you have a bad dream warning you of an upcoming misfortune. If you reflect and think, I must have done something wrong to receive such a warning. Since I acted out of ignorance, please guide me onto the right path and help me. When you accept it and make an effort to change, a major misfortune that was headed your way will begin to be cleared away. Because you acknowledge it and make an effort, the misfortune will pass by very lightly, arriving merely as a minor sign. However, what if you ignore the warning? Then you have to be struck down. If you ignore it, you will only learn after you suffer and experience the consequences. The reason nature warns you of bad things in advance is to observe your reaction. This is the essence of dreams. Before granting a good thing, they show it to you first to see how you behave. If you accept it with gratitude, they can give you everything. And if you accept it with higher wisdom, they can give you something grander. A dream expands or shrinks based on your actions. Because of this, it is crucial that we correctly understand and properly process everything nature gives us. Even if you have a bad dream, it is certain that something negative is bound to happen. However, if you say, I have lived blindly and caused this, so please teach me and guide me well, I will do better from now on, then the heavy misfortunes will be cleared away, and you will be led to a better path. Why? Because nature also shares responsibility for letting human beings live in ignorance. Since this principle exists, if you manage the situation well, because people usually don't know how to do this. When they have a highly ominous dream, they visit fortune tellers, Buddhist monks, Christian pastors, or spiritual masters. When you bring your dream and explain it to them, they are supposed to interpret it for you. By listening to you, your life patterns become clear, and they might say, because you have lived with these shortcomings without realizing it, this unfortunate event is coming toward you. However, the event has not actually hit you yet. There is a reason why the gods and nature showed it to you in advance. What should you do to handle it at this stage? What should you do? If it happened out of ignorance, you offer a prayer of aspiration Chak 1 and set things right. You confess to the gods. This sentient being must have committed wrongs out of ignorance. Please look after them, and if possible, please do not punish them too severely. Thank you for warning us in advance. How do you think the gods will respond to that? Do you think they will say, no, you still need to be beaten? From that moment on, the gods will help you. Why? Because they understand. They sent that person to a spiritual guide precisely so they could be awakened. If you say, because I live without knowing any better, I have no choice but to accept punishment if it comes, but please help me, Holy Spirits. I will live differently from now on. They will understand and look after you. A prophetic dream changes based on how we manage it. Depending on how an accused person speaks to a judge who is about to pass sentence, the punishment can be lessened or made more severe. The exact same thing applies to the gods. They are the case officers handling the events between the divine and human realms. Therefore, everything depends on how we conduct ourselves. An event that is destined to happen can manifest either very weakly or very intensely. A great fortune can come fully, or it can stop short after arriving only slightly. By studying the laws of nature correctly and knowing how to face these signs, we can receive immense help and live a fulfilled life. And this is the true education regarding dreams. Look at today. You received this wisdom Dharma today. Depending on how gratefully you cherish this, the events in your life will change, your children's affairs will prosper, synergy will pour in, and your life will improve tremendously. Ultimately, everything depends on how we accept and digest what arises from nature. That is what creates the secondary events. Then, how we accept and utilize those secondary events creates the tertiary events. This is how good fortune compounds and overlaps. But if you do not know how to receive it and misuse it instead, strange and conflicting events will repeatedly occur, making life difficult. You must always know how to be grateful, and you must understand the fundamental reasons why you should be grateful.